Since childhood, I've been fascinated by trees and their communal gathering which create giant green tents supported by bark-covered poles. There is something otherworldly about forests. For me, life would not be complete without visiting the mecca of American forests, the redwoods. And with less than 5% of old-growth forests remaining in the U.S., I felt an urgency to make a pilgrimage to California. My journey took me to Muir Woods, the last remaining uncut redwood forest in the San Francisco Bay Area. The 560-acre park lies just 12 miles north of the Golden Gate Bridge. This majestic stand was spared the loggers' saw in the 1800s for one reason: it was too hard to get to. In 1905, with pressure increasing to cut down the trees in Muir Woods, Congressman William Kent, seeing the aesthetic value of this remnant forest over its economic value, donated the property to what would become the National Park Service. Redwoods are actually members of the cypress family. They're easily identified by their reddish-brown trunks and needle-like leaves. The common name, sequoia, is named after a Cherokee Indian leader and means big tree. In fact, the redwood is the tallest living thing on Earth, reaching a height of over 360 feet with bark up to 12 inches thick. If my Midwest forest resembled tents, then this forest could only be described as a great red-columned cathedral, designed by a divine architect and built by the patient hand of nature over thousands of years. Over 140 million years ago, sequoias covered much of the northern hemisphere until advancing ice sheets and climate changes reduced their growing range. Only 3 species survived: the giant sequoia and coast redwood in California and the dawn redwood in China. The petrified forest of Arizona is actually the fossil remains of extinct sequoias. Until the 1800s, many northern California coastal valleys were blanketed with redwoods. But beginning in 1807, and as recently as 1995, the relaxing of federal forest policies has reduced old-growth redwood forests to a patchwork of 150,000 acres along a 500-mile strip of Pacific coast stretching from northern California to southern Oregon. Each of these giants requires hundreds of gallons of water a day, which is provided by dense fog and 40 inches of annual rainfall. The national debate over forest protection took root in 1867 when John Muir, a Scottish immigrant and successful industrial inventor, left his Wisconsin machine shop at age 30 to become a naturalist. To acquaint himself with the land and to ponder the meaning of nature, Muir attended what he called the University of Wilderness and hiked from the Midwest to the Gulf of Mexico, eventually settling in the high Sierras of California. He concluded that humans are no greater or lesser than other life forms, and that nature did not exist solely to be exploited by man, but existed in its own right. His prolific articles and books publicized and popularized a new concept which would leave large samples of wilderness on public land untouched, a position known as protectionist. Muir's opponent in this unresolved debate was Gifford Pinchot, the first chief of the U.S. Forest Service. Pinchot proposed careful and balanced forest management for long-term economic use, which included logging. This concept became known as conservationist. Muir's writings were so persuasive, they moved 3 presidents to action. After a meeting with Muir at Yosemite in 1903, Teddy Roosevelt established 148 million acres of national forest, 5 national parks, and 23 national monuments, including Muir Woods. Pinchot's vision of a well-managed forest system, on the other hand, remained strongly influenced by short-sighted timber interests.
Despite the passing of over 100 years, Muir's writings still hold meaning today. Any fool can destroy trees. They cannot run away. And if they could, they would still be destroyed, chased and hunted down as long as fun or a dollar could be got out of their bark hides, branching horns, or magnificent bold backbones. Few that fell trees plant them, nor would planting avail much toward getting back anything like the noble primeval forests. It took more than 3,000 years to make some of the trees in these western woods, trees that are still standing in perfect strength and beauty, waving and singing in the mighty forests. Through all the wonderful, eventful centuries since Christ's time, and long before that, God has cared for these trees, saved them from drought, disease, avalanches, and 1,000 straining, leveling tempests and floods. But he cannot save them from fools. Only Uncle Sam can do that. I'm Tom Trinley with Notes from the Field.
Visit us at notesfromthefieldtv.com. Funding provided by O'Connell International Advisors.